cannot reach to you. His eyes ain't ever blind, he cannot see your tears. His ears are not deaf, that he cannot hear you cry. Your tomorrow must be greater than today.
Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Bahati, the Minister of Finance, Chairman of the Board, members of the Board, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am very at home here. I feel at home because of all the familiar faces, and it's a pleasure to be here. When I was asked to come, I did not hesitate, because I think I've spoken before. A few years ago, I attended one of your fundraising functions, a dinner. I was proud to be associated with you. I have followed your developments and the way you work together, and I've come to understand that Kigezi are very amazing people. That's why you are leading this country. You have something which I'll talk about, that ruggedness, that persistence, that need to push harder, and that's what differentiates you from us, the other people in Uganda. And I was talking about it on social media the other day, and then the Basoga started attacking me because I was comparing them to the Kigezi. And I said they took it out of context, because it is because of your hard work, because of the environment that you live in, that made you what you are. And others who are gifted by nature take it for granted. We need to sharpen our swords, all of us. Very quickly, allow me to give a brief background of what I'm going to talk about and why I speak so passionately about entrepreneurship. Many of you have probably heard my story. My story is one of adversity, because my father was killed when I was young, at the age of 13. I was raised in a family that's reasonably well-to-do. So I took things for granted. We had cars, maids, people taking me to school, and life was comfortable. But then, during Idi Amin's regime, he was killed, and killed for no reason. I tried to ask myself for a long time, why us? Why did that happen? And there was no answer. To me, it was a travesty of justice. I was at that age when I just began reasoning, so I could understand the meaning of justice and fairness, and it was very unfair. That bitterness hurt me for a long time, and I was a staunch Catholic. Father Grimes took us in because life became very hard. I was an altar boy. I prayed every single day, but I had a big argument with the Lord up there because he couldn't explain to me or justify why that had happened to me. It was very painful for so many years. But out of that adversity, I grew strong and I could see more clearly. My vision now became 2020. I was a very poor performer in class, at the back of the class, but I improved thereafter, suddenly. From 28, 29 in class of out of 30, I came to number 14, then I came to number 6, then I came to number 3, and then I realized I could run a race with my peers, and I could see more clearly whatever I was doing. When I would listen, I could hear. And that difference came out of this adversity. It woke me up. It doesn't happen to everybody. We should be able to sharpen our vision and see things very clearly for one day. At times, we just stay in this dull area, and we think we follow the masses. But a time has come where we've got to change our trajectory as a country, as a people. And I think that's where this vision becomes very important. For me, it was about restoration of dignity and self-esteem to the family. Not so much about money that drove me to excel or to succeed. I just felt it was wrong. We did not belong there. And I didn't think it was right that life became how it was. I couldn't allow it to continue. I took responsibility for my life, and that of my immediate family, and that of my immediate community. And along the years, I felt I have a responsibility to the country. So you have to play a role for the country in which you live. If we all change our thinking, our attitude, we can make a difference. Because the key word today is competitiveness globally. America is now thinking America first. China is thinking, how do we stay number one or become number one? Everybody's looking inwards. What about us in Uganda? We will not be benchmarking against Kenya and Rwanda and Tanzania only. We are players in this continent, but we have to change our attitude collectively. Now, my search for hope helped me to see where I was going. By the time I was 16, I could tell it was going to be business, and I wanted to excel in business because I could make a difference there. I was invited to talk to a school. I think it was one of the schools in Mukono, about 15 years ago. I was invited on a Friday. When I went to the school, I was told then, when I was going to start the address, that during that week, several other speakers had been there. They had invited a senior engineer from Kampala, a senior lawyer, a senior doctor, a senior sociologist, and on the last day they invited a businessman. So when I started talking to the kids, all of them had made up their mind what they wanted to do about their future, their career. Now, if you are brilliant or excellent in class, you do good, you do well in science and arts, you are going to become an engineer or a doctor. And your parents had endorsed that, and your teachers had endorsed that. If not, if you're only good in arts, you do become a lawyer or something in that other fact. It's when you failed everything else that you look to business. So I found it hard to convince these children to become entrepreneurs because their minds were set. Even if I convinced some of them that evening, they had already agreed with their parents, I've got to be a doctor. So what happens to our business sector, the private sector, the engine of the economy? We get the dregs of society, those who have failed in everything else. We've got to change our mindset. We've got to allow a certain percentage to go into that sector of entrepreneurship to excel. I use the analogy of trees. When you have so many seeds in a country as fertile as Uganda, and you throw these seeds, you scatter them. Some of them will germinate. Some will land on a hard rock and they'll never germinate. But Uganda is so fertile, so full of opportunities. They should germinate. Now, when they germinate, what do you grow? Many people, potatoes. Maybe a shrub that grows short. What is it that makes certain things grow tall and become big trees with a big stem and a big canopy with leaves? It's the difference. When I look at many of us in Uganda, we are like stunted. The potatoes we talked about. We try business, but we don't grow. You can't grow tall and provide shelter. When you look at some of the Indians who come here, the Chinese who come here, they grow in a very short time into large trees. These are the industrialists. Then we start complaining about them. But it's because we chose to throw the wrong seeds. If the right seeds are planted and more people are going into entrepreneurship, we shall be on a different trajectory. Kenya realized this some time ago, and more young kids are going into entrepreneurship there. And the smart people, not the ones who have failed. And it's never too late to go into business. Even you who are here, many of you are my contemporaries or even older than me. You can still go into business. You can still invest. Colonel Sanders, who set up KFC, he got a big break when he was 66 years old. So it's never too late to get into business. But my worry is too many people want to follow the sheep, follow one direction. Maybe it's because the shepherd took them there. But we cannot all go into politics. We cannot all go into the traditional areas of government, getting a job only. We need engineers. We need doctors. I make no mistake. But we cannot leave that area for very few people. What the NRM government has given us today is peace. Peace and security. And people wonder, why are you so much an ardent supporter of NRM? For me, it is very clear. I've known no other. I was born just before Uganda got independence. At that time, everything was blooming. We loved our country. We were sentimental and patriotic. And then an eclipse happened and went into a very dark era. For me, it was very, very dark. When these people came back from exile, I was so happy to see them. Uncles, we were hugging them. We were in tears. But inside, I'm crying, hoping my father would also come back. But it had been such a deep valley that I went into. And that helped change my focus, my ability to see. Today, I think all of us should think differently. We are running a race. We've got to compete. We've got to do things differently. And being rich is not a bad thing. Being successful is not a bad thing. Many were told it's okay because the rich people have to go through an eye of a needle to get through to heaven. And that kept us maybe in a malaise for a very long time. You've got to be successful so that you can play a role around you and influence other people around you. Today the challenge is so many young people are graduating and we just don't have enough jobs. If you look at the number of universities, maybe 34, 35 universities today, and some of the vocational institutions, 300,000 young people are graduating every year. And yet, we only generate decent jobs, and I'll define decent jobs, a job that gives you about 1 million shillings. We only generate 15,000 decent jobs. If you stretch it, maybe 50,000. But still, we've left behind 250,000 people who will not get that job. And in 5 years, that's 1 million people. So we've got to change what we are doing. It's important because people need jobs. Because jobs give people self-dignity, give them self-esteem. When you see these young people who are becoming desperate after loitering for so long, looking for jobs, and we're not creating them in the private sector, these people become hopeless, desperate, despondent. and then there will be civil strife. This peace that we have had for so long will be undermined. We all have got to play a collective role. This government has given us peace and security, and for the last 30 years, we've got to respect that. Some of us begin to feel we take it for granted, and the younger generation, even my own kids say, no, we want a change. Why don't we have something different? They have no idea. To me, I try to tell them, this is everything, because without peace, without security, you are absolutely useless. Education is very important. And when I talked about that tree compared to those plants, education is like the root system. Many of you are educated and you develop a strong root system. The roots grow down. But what happens after your education? You need to grow above the surface. We need to see the benefits, the fruits of what you have done. Some people get PhDs and PhDs and PhDs, but what happens after? We need you to build these industries that the government is now talking about, so that somebody can see and benefit and see the fruit from those trees. And that's how we shall change our country and our culture. Beans and potatoes do not go very far in this analogy. It is the taller trees that really matter. And I want us to change our attitude and learn from the Chinese, learn from the Indians, partner with them if we have to, because that's the only way we shall transform our society. The Chinese came to Malaysia, they were resented. To Thailand, they were resented. But they changed those economies because they had to learn a new work ethic. And that's what we've got to do to reach the promised land, so to speak. We need more entrepreneurs and less people going into the government sector, so that the entrepreneur can harness the creativity and the talents of all the people around them for the common good. Entrepreneur is the last person paid. We get the labor, the capital, and all the other factors that we need to work for us so that we can benefit. And that's what will happen if more people get into entrepreneurship. Today, Uganda has about 40 million people. If only 3% of the 40 million people were into entrepreneurship, real entrepreneurship, that would be about 1.2 million people in entrepreneurship. If they created only 20 jobs in each of these businesses, that's 20 million jobs. The word unemployment will not exist. So the percentage we're looking for is only 3%. Even 2% will do fine. But we need to get real investors who can create jobs, people who you employ and can pay 20 people $1 million shillings. Even $500,000 shillings is in the right direction. But we've got to move forward. We cannot do what we are doing. So what is it that we lack? We lack that blueprint of life, that roadmap. Because we just followed, we didn't make your own roadmap. A blueprint, if you're going to build a house, you need to have a blueprint. You have that paper that shows exactly where what wall stands there and what column goes there. And that's what we need. We urgently need to do that and set up the goals so that you know exactly what you want in life. When I tell people about this, I tell them they think it's oversimplifying it, but it's actually like a language, financial literacy. You need to read, you need to form habits. All successful people have certain habits. They are common, like a common denominator. They get up early. When they are talking, they are taking notes. When they are listening, they take notes. They do those things. They read. You continuously keep reading. You question things. You try to improve, and you can do it. It's never too late. Anybody can be successful. There is no reason why the next generation does not create over 100,000 millionaires in Uganda, especially with the resources that we have as a country. Forget about the oil. That should be still a bonus. There is got to be something that changes our attitude. The danger, I think, for many people, when you make your plan A, is you start thinking about plan B. I say, there's a story of a man called Charles Lindenberg who flew from New York to Paris. The first man who flew non-stop from New York to Paris. That flight took 33 and a half hours. He was alone in this little plane. He had planned it, he had enough fuel. Now when he reached halfway, just over halfway, he was extremely tired. When he reached 24 hours of flying, he wanted to go back. But he couldn't make it back, he didn't have enough fuel. So he persevered, and he landed in Paris. When he landed, they asked him, how did you make it? And he said, the only reason that kept me going was, I didn't have a plan B. Plan A was the only place to go, and I had to land in Paris. Plan B is the worst thing if you think you have alternatives. But if you lock onto one plan, and you stick to your plan, and you are tenacious, you will arrive. Too often we look at alternatives, and the easier alternatives will end up taking us away. So we must be focused and stick to what we do. The power of positive habits cannot be emphasized enough. All of us have got habits and we take it lightly. But if you go back and change the way your children think and teach them something that the Bachiga have especially, and the word for that in English is true grit. True grit is being stronger than talent. Too many people rely so heavily on talent. Talent is not enough. You need that indomitable spirit, that strength of character, that resilience to go the extra mile. And that's what will differentiate you. Too many people think it's somebody who's very clever or successful, who will be successful. But what keeps us going is the ability to fight on, to keep pushing, and that will make a very big difference. Also, you need to build a team around you, to choose the right partners. Not just in the way you work, but even in your day-to-day lives. Many of you have chosen your wives, and your wives have been a great support to you. We all know that. But what about when it comes to work, when it comes to business? Choosing the right partner will make a very big difference. You need to take your time and make sure you get a partner to build a team that will be important. Lastly, as I end, I want to talk about the significance of time, because we don't seem to understand the significance of time. The habit of punctuality, the habit of working out that I've only got so much time. In a day we have 24 hours. Of the 24 hours, we sleep, most of us, for 8 hours, which is a third of the day. And then the third of the day we spend for personal time, whether it's in the bathroom, driving to work, in the gym, on the way home when you go to the club, have a drink with your friends. Almost 8 hours goes there. So you really have only 8 hours to work to make a difference in your lives. If you put things in perspective, you realize that of the day, you only work for a third of the day. To make a difference in your life, you need to be successful. It takes about 30 years. For young people who have graduated at 25, they want to be successful before they are 50. So you're going to work for only 10 of the 30 years. So only a third of the actual time that you have is really useful time. The rest is for sleeping or for leisure. So use that 10, a third of the 10 hours or a third of your time usefully. When we are young, from the age 1 to 25, you are learning. After 25 to 50, you've got to work really hard. After 50, your energy starts going down, so you've got to start consolidating what you do. And if you realize that you don't have that much time on earth, of course, for sure, we will die. Some people push to 100, 97, 98, great, they're in bonus time. But all of us, the Bible says, around 75, 80, you should be ready to check out. But how will you use your time between now and then to make a difference, a lasting difference? The man who we know is the fastest runner in the world, Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt runs 100 meters. He runs it in under 10 seconds. He ran 6 races that made him very famous, the gold medal races. Out of those 6 races, and if you take 6 races, 10 seconds, that is 1 minute only. So his real input was the 1 minute that made $100 million for him. But the amount of work he did before that, 10 years of training before he could reach his peak, and then those 6 seconds are what defined him. Now everybody knows Usain Bolt is the fastest man on earth. They don't know who the second is or the third. Do you? Everyone remembers the winner. So you've got to try and think like that and train your children, your friends, to think about how do you become a winner. And that means putting in the hours much earlier rather than much later. Those of you in business, what have I learned in the recent days? I have learned turnover is important, but turnover is vanity. However much you make in turnover, don't be deceived by it. Profit is sanity. You need to make sure you're making a profit. Otherwise, don't do all the things. There's so many people trading, they have good businesses, but you look for the profit, it is hardly there. And it's a matter of time, the business model is going to go down. But ultimately, cash flow is king. Make sure you keep an eye on cash flow. Otherwise, the expenses in any business will grow. And soon they grow their own legs and they walk away with the business and you're left with a shell. So you've got to keep an eye on cash flow. It's more important than profit, more important than turnover. Cash flow is king. I will end with a saying, it starts with a dream. All of you are gifted children of God. We are all equal. You must have your own dream. It starts with a dream. You add faith, it becomes a belief. You add action, it becomes a part of your life. You add perseverance, it becomes a goal in sight. Add patience and time, and it ends with a dream come true. Live a meaningful, purposeful, fulfilling life. It starts today. Make an impact and a difference, however small, on the lives of other people, and surely it will make a difference. As I end, I know that Kigezi School has done wonderful things, and you are now metamorphosing to another level. I will end by making a small contribution to the school, to the fundraising school. I told my wife I'm going to give 5 million shillings. because I came here and the Prime Minister welcomed me in that way, I'm going to give you 50 million.
A deserving standing ovation to our very own Founders Club. Wow, 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 wow. Thank you very much, Mr. Bitature.